Hey, what's up guys, TheJordude here, back again with another Shadowverse video. This video is sponsored by Cygames. If you want to play and download Shadowverse for free, you can do so on all your mobile devices as well as your PC on Steam. I'll have the link down below in the description. Also, if you guys are ready to compete in Shadowverse in the competitive scene, the NGE Season 3 has started signups. So make sure you go check out the link down below in the description to go to NGE and sign up for the tournaments. You want to sign up because if you qualify, if you make it all the way, you could win a trip to Japan and play in the Rage World Championships Grand Prix. So very exciting stuff. Make sure you check out those links. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about post-analysis of that tournament that you just played in. So in my previous videos, I talked about how you want to, every step you want to take when you want to prepare for a tournament. So that was formulating the level strategy, the types of decks you want to put, your ban and target strategy, and how you should be practicing for that tournament. So post-analysis and why you should do it. So post-analysis is basically just looking back at the tournament, looking back at the games you played, seeing what went right so that you could try to replicate it, keep doing what is good. If it ain't broke, don't break it. And so you can look at that, and you should also be looking at what went wrong. So is there anything that you could have done better? Was it just out of your control? You should be able to look for these and identify if it was something that you could have done better or you could have done wrong. Something to keep in mind is when I'm talking about going back and looking what went wrong, I'm not trying to tell you guys to have some post bias, outcome bias. You don't want to be results orientated. Think about it as the time being in the present tense. Was the play at that time the best play? That's like one thing you should be thinking of when you're understanding what went wrong, is being able to figure out, A, was it something that you could have controlled? Was it like a decision that you made, or was it just something, or was the card, or did the cards just outplay you? Did your opponent's cards just best yours? And B, if it was a decision that you made, was it the best decision at that time? Or are you just starting to feel regret for that play because you saw the results, what your opponent played after? And if it is something that your opponent played afterwards and you're being like, damn, that really sucked, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done something like that. Was it something that happens often? Like, is it a common counter to your play that you should be avoiding? So you should be able to understand what went wrong there. Basically picking up your mistakes for the next tournament, what went right. Basically, you can look at the games maybe you won, or maybe a part of the game that went really well for you, and just see just try to remember how you thought making that play. Was it an obvious play? Was it something that you had to kind of put together, and the outcome of it, if it was good. Now you have that in your memory. Now you know what is the right answer to do to this certain situation. One way you can do your post-analysis, Shadowverse has a great function on replay, so you can look at the last like 10 games and have a replay with it. It works for friendly battles. Of course, if you're playing in a tournament, you're probably playing more than 10 games, so you might not be able to capture all the matches in the replay. If that's the case, then you do want to have something like OBS. This is like a streaming software, but of course you could use it to record locally. So this is a great way to just capture all the games you played in a tournament. So if you are playing in a tournament, I would recommend to download OBS, set it up. You don't, especially if you're just recording the games, you really don't have to set up anything. You just have to add on to your game and then hit the record button and capture all the games so you can look back at it later. So that way you could get past the 10 game limit on the replay function of in-client. So yeah, so let's look at this game that I lost, and I'll do kind of like an analysis of what went right, what went wrong in this game, or was there anything that I could have controlled of, etc. So here, it's just a ladder game. I'm playing Atomi Tyrant Shadow versus Haven. And here, mulligan wise, I'm always looking for Lord Atomi here, so I just do the full mulligan. That's pretty standard for my style of play with this deck. Here I'm just going to play the Skeleton Fighter, of course. You just want to play the body. So of course, these decisions, like, there are some key turns in the early game that does make a difference throughout the rest of the game. Although, of course, during more towards the mid-late game, that's where a lot of decisions matter. Maybe not really late game because you're just top decking at that point. Here, go for a Bone Chimera. I think that's the better play, obviously, in Soul Conversion. Soul Conversion just makes me lose tempo. Bone Chimera is using my play points on curve. So this turn is a bit interesting. I go for the Belenus, and I'll use the Soul Conversion on the Belenus to ping that one, and then I trade in with the Skeleton. So this play clears the Angel of Word, however I lose a lot of board presence. I could have went face here and just used the Soul Conversion instead. So that was kind of like a decision that I had to make this turn. So as we see here, I go for the clear. I'm not, of course, I'm not too sure if that's right. I pick up another Soul Conversion, so I use that to draw an extra 2 cards. I could have also saved that Soul Conversion for my Lurking Corpse and just wait for my opponent to play something and use it on the Lurking Corpse, get some value off that. But I figured I want to draw through my deck because, as you can see, I don't have my Lord of Tomi, which is a key card in this deck. And because I am really looking for that Lord of Tomi, it's already past that early game point where I want to play it ideally. So I evolved the what's this called? The Androphis to try to draw more cards in my deck. So he has a Tin Soldier here. This turn I could go for a Sewidwin Evolve, but that doesn't seem good because I only get back a Bone Chimera. Use the Demon Eater instead, draw 2, deals with this Tin Soldier. Again, trying to look for the Lord of Tomi there, because if I did pick up a Tomi, I would be able to play it this turn, which would be very powerful, especially with the cards I drew. And also another thing that I wanted to think of, like, throughout the match is I wanted to put him at like 15 or maybe 13 if possible, just so my Lord, my Deathly Tyrant could be lethal at some point. Especially at this point in the game, like, I haven't seen my Tomi, I'm not getting any pressure up. Here I could have possibly just went to kill off the Unica. It would have been a viable play. The reason being is because he heals up to 17 now, and I can't kill him with Tyrant anymore. He's getting out of my Tyrant range. Like, I also have the Disciple in my hand, which I'm trying to save for my Deathly Tyrant. At this point, I decide that I want to kill the Unica, so I'm using my Disciple, which is a bit too late in my opinion. I think I'd rather have cleared it the previous turn. So, this was kind of a mistake on my part. So, as we see from looking back, like, I should have just cleared the Unica the turn before. It would have been a lot better. Like, I end up using an Evolve point anyways. Also, he heals it back up to 17, and I had to use my Disciple. So I used so much just because I didn't kill that Unica the previous turn. And now, as things start to fall behind here, I finally pick up a Tomi. Right now, I'm just trying to get it out because these one attack followers really aren't doing anything against that Cleric Lancer. I need that Tomi out. And I'm also going to drop this Tyrant just so I can get through this Cleric. And if he doesn't have an answer to the Tyrant, then I could possibly squeeze out a win. But at this point, yep, I am behind. He does end up using a Themis Decree, I believe, here. Pick up a Naratomi. At this point, like, I'm trying to go for my second Tyrant to go off, if that's even possible in this game. Here I could have actually kept my board 5-4-2-2-1-2. Not bad, but I think at 8-8 is slightly stronger in this situation. He has another Aether here, which pulls out, of course, Aegis. And he has a Tribunal. So at this point, it's pretty much over. And I have no draws here, no outs. So that was looking back at my loss. And as you can see, there was a couple of decisions there which I could have done better, possibly. So in my future games when I'm playing Atomi now, I feel like that I've gotten a bit better by looking back at that game, seeing where my mistakes were. Like, one of the crucial mistakes I think was just not killing the Unica the turn before. Then the turn after I had to use my Evolve point anyways, as well as my Disciple to get through wards, because I know he had Cleric Lancers in his deck. So now I know that I do need to set him at that crucial life. Although, so that was some decision points where I could have played better. Maybe some other plays where earlier on when I'm using my cycling and how I'm managing the board. Things I couldn't control, which were unfortunate, was not drawing Lord Otomi, but that is the risk that I understand that I'm taking when playing this kind of deck. So now let's move on and look at a match that I won, because you don't always have to look at the games you lost. You could check out the games you won and see things that you were doing right. So this time I switched to OTK Forest, and we queue into another Forest deck. Here, okay, so here I throw back the Ancient Elf. However, I'm going second, so that's why I didn't want to keep it, especially if he has the initiative. But I think, like, the more I think about it, and I kind of thought about it right after I threw back the Ancient Elf, was that Fairy Circle into double fairies into Ancient Elf is so strong, especially in the mirror match, that it might have been worth keeping. However, especially with his hand, like I could have gone double fairy here, and on 3, pretty much for sure gaining out a strong Ancient Elf. Fortunately though, I do pick up Wood of Brambles, which is really good in the mirror match. So he just goes for a Goblin Mage here. And now I'm going to get some really sick value off the Wood of Brambles. But yeah, the Ancient Elf, I think if I had to mulligan again, I might have kept it. But seeing this situation planned out, the Ancient Elf wouldn't be that good. It'd be a 4/5, so it does trade well, does fight against like a Goblin Mage, but he could easily answer it if he has his own Brambles, at least a tempo on the fairies I had. So sinking it twice over again, like the Ancient Elf maybe not as good anymore in the mirror match early on, especially because Forest now has like the Spring Green protections, they have Wood of Brambles, so they have a lot more ways to deal with it. Before they couldn't deal with it, you get that face damage in for like 4, and you pretty much win the game at that point in the mirror match. But things are a bit different now, as you can see with the new support. And yeah, sorry. Seeing this game pan out, like we're seeing the power of how good Wood of Brambles is in this mirror match. So now, like when I'm playing this matchup, I know that I could be looking for either Wood of Brambles or keeping it in my mulligan just by seeing how much work it's doing here. At this point, I know I'm like super far ahead, and I have 2 evolve points still, so I'm just going to evolve this Fina. This is pretty standard play. Like I play this deck enough where I understand where I want to be doing at a certain point when I'm setting up my combo, when I'm ahead. So as you can see, I have 2 free Goblin Mages, I have a Bounce and a Roach in my hand, so I'm getting ready for a really big combo either in the next turn or 2. So I just want to make sure that that's all set up and as clean as possible. I know my opponent can't kill me anytime soon because they didn't play a Fina or a Elven Princess Mage, so they can't set up big combos, and I'm safe at 18. So you play the air and I just clean it off with Cassiopeia, get the extra chip damage in, put him back to 18, and we have Lethal set up for next turn. And we also even have the Angelic Barrage and Evolve to get through wards if needed, because we have 18 without the Evolve point. So as we see here, he has a big ward, but it's not going to be any difference. I don't even have to waste an Evolve on the Ancient Elf. And as you can see, we'll kill him with, I think, 20 damage here. So in terms of this game, as the post-analysis, as you can see, things went well, but you could take something from it. Like, some people might see it as, oh wow, I just high-rolled the mirror match. However, you could look at the small details of it. You saw how strong Wood of Brambles was in that matchup. Looking back at how it played out, how the early game played out, Ancient Elf didn't seem as good as it could have been or should have been. And so yeah, so we did pick something up from that, watching back on that mirror match. Even though we won it really hard, we still learned something. Same as like the game we lost. We lost against the Haven pretty hard, but we learned something and we took something from it. So kind of like one of the last things I want to talk about in your post-analysis is you do want to record, look back at your games that you played. You also really want to record your stats. Don't mind this title. This is just my spreadsheet for my preparation for NGE. Not really top secret stuff. It's just win rates, So this is something you kind of want to, something like this kind of spreadsheet is something you want to build when you're playing a tournament. So just have like 3 tabs for your 3 decks, have all the classes that you could be playing against, then you have different columns for the different archetypes of decks, then you can just put your win-loss, your win rates. And then what's good about this is that of course it's not going to help you in the tournament. Maybe it does help you. Maybe if you're deep into the tournament, you can figure out, okay, what's my general percentage I'm getting at in certain matchups, and maybe you could adjust your ban or your pick order accordingly. So maybe that could give you some edge. So definitely keep track of your stats while playing the tournament, and then come post analysis time, you take your stats and you want to basically say, okay, which decks did well, which decks did bad. Do I want to change any of these decks for the next tournament, especially if it's coming up, so the meta is not going to change too much? Do I still want to play these decks? Do I want to change them? Do I want to change my ban or target strategy? Were there decks that I saw that were beating me most of the time? Do I want to play those decks? So there's a lot of questions that you could ask yourself, and the data could back you up and answer your questions. So definitely something that I really recommend you do. So that's pretty much it for the post analysis on tournaments. If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and check me out on my social media links down below in the description, my Twitch when I stream live, and as well as my Twitter. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.